Hey guys, I thought today I'd do something a little different and show you guys a project I'm working on for actually getting tree frogs to live in my backyard. They're actually a native species, and I got a whole bunch of these tadpoles. I'll show you in a second. Here's just some of them. I'll show you in a minute. I also have an outdoor setup. I originally just dumped some into my pond, but it turns out my goldfish were picking at them. And then I started raising them up here, and as soon as they got their front legs, like you can see this guy is starting to get his, that means they can survive out of water. And I would release them into my yard. And unfortunately, when they're that little, they're, quick, easy prey for birds, and it's hard for them to find food. So I got to the next level and I set this up. So this tank here I set up to raise them up, feed them for a while, get them to a good size to where I can release them outside and they'll be safe. You can see in here there's some different states they're at. Like this guy still has a long tail on him even though he has his front legs. That just means he doesn't need to eat yet. There's a fruit fly crawling on him right now. He seems to not care. But once they get bigger like this and their tail is completely gone, they need to start eating. So I've been dropping in a mix of fruit flies. I've got a bunch of little jars of them here. They're tiny little guys. They reproduce in there, so there's always something to feed. And also, I've got some these little springtails, as you can see here. These little guys kind of have two jobs. For one, they're just a tiny food source for these guys, a little smaller than the fruit flies. But as well, they feed on dead and decaying matter, like dead leaves and stuff like that. So they also, when they're not being eaten, they are cleaning up the place, helping keep everything clean. Makes it so you don't have to clean up as much yourself. You don't have to get in there and really risk losing frogs because these little guys climb up a lot. You can see they're up near the top, so that's why I have everything kind of sealed up. But yeah, I'll go ahead and show you now my outdoor tadpole setup. And so here outside, I have another little tadpole setup. You can see they're just hanging out in there. And I like to keep, as you can see in the other one, a little bit of floating cork bark. Something for them to crawl up onto so that when I come out here, I can see if they're fully formed frogs, they'll just be hanging out on there. So for raising the tadpoles, it's pretty simple. I just get leafy greens like lettuce, kale, anything like that, and blanch it. Just put it in some water, pop it in the microwave for a few minutes. And once it's done cooling down, you can just drop it in to feed to them. Though you might want to add a little more nutrients to it. So what I do is I take powdered spirulina and kind of powder it over it and then drop it in. And they tend to go pretty crazy for that. I also leave lots of like algae and stuff like that for them to kind of nibble on. But yeah, so once they grow their front legs and start to get out of the water, that's when you can switch them over from a plant-based diet to small insects. And eventually when they're big enough, you can move them up to crickets. And once they're on crickets, then they'll be able to survive on their own, and I'll put them out here in the yard and hopefully have a bunch of frogs. And this specific species are Pacifica Chorus Frogs. So they're gonna be making a lot of noise, but they're native to this area. Pacifica is like right next to San Francisco. So they shouldn't have any trouble surviving out here in my yard. At least I hope not. One last thing I wanted to mention in case anybody's wondering where I got these from. Actually, some friends of mine go out every season and find down in Pacifica the little tiny puddles that wouldn't last, that would dry up before these guys would be able to form their front legs. So they kind of just rescue them and hold on to them until they're big enough to be released again, and this year they offered me some to take care of, and yeah, so that's where these guys came from. None of them would have made it in the wild otherwise, so giving these guys another chance at life. So yeah, hopefully you guys enjoyed that. This was a really short video I thought I'd just put together to show you what I've been up to lately, as well as in case any of you guys were hoping to keep tadpoles yourselves and wondering how to raise them up to be frogs. Well, hopefully you enjoyed that, and I'll see you in the next one.